And like I said, people was dying. And I was like, whoa, aren't they still in school? What is going on? Why y'all bullying these kids? You too big for that. If y'all can hear the lawnmower going outside, just know that they're doing yard work outside my house and I can't do nothing about it. I'm so sorry, but I can't do. Today, we are going to be covering all the books that I read between May and June. I feel like even with both of the months combined that I didn't really read that many books, but that's mainly because I was really stuck reading this one series for almost the entire month of May, but I did get some other books in. So I think I'm going to go ahead and present these either in a random order or in the order that I rated them. So lowest rated to highest rated, and we'll go ahead and start with the month of May. Y'all hear them? Yeah. Let me see if noise canceling would be better for today. Does this sound better? How am I supposed to know? But let's get started. Starting with my lowest rated book, I read Salt by Jonah Yorke. This was a recently released book. It was released on May 12th of this year. This was a highly anticipated release for me. I loved the first volume of this series, Sweat. Honestly, so much that I thought this one would hit just as hard, but it did not. And I feel like I'm the only one when I read the reviews that this book didn't hit hard for. So it was one of those where I felt like I was on an island of my own. This follows our main character, Connor, who moves to another part of California to her father's house so that both of them can attend college. And basically while he's there, he shacks up with his girlfriend's brother, Dane. Dane is kind of the black sheep of the family. He's not very well liked by his sister or his father. And throughout the book, you kind of get this premise that when they were children, Dane's mother left his father, and instead of taking both him and his sister, she decided to only take his sister, and Dane has been left abandoned. And like I said, Dane's father doesn't really like him, so it's kind of just been a hard upbringing for Dane all over. And so while Connor is there, Dane and him kind of shack up in secret. There was no particular reason why I didn't like this one other than the fact that the execution just felt very flat to me. Also, Connor and Dane are the two worst cheaters in the world. Like, I'm surprised they didn't get caught way sooner than they did. It was kind of just a book to me, and it really wasn't as good as the first one in my opinion, so I rated this one 2.5 stars. The next 9 books that I read are actually part of a series, and this took up majority of my month of May. I've mentioned this book before in one of like my vlogs that I posted earlier. It is the Criminal Intentions series by McCade. I completely got obsessed with these couples simply because the slow burn was slow, y'all. Okay, it was slow. Trying to fight for my life to get to some substance, okay? And that didn't happen until like book 5 or 7. When I say it was slow, but I didn't mind it because each book followed a different murder mystery, and I do love a good murder mystery detective novel, so I was sad for all 9 books. Overall, I rate the series 3 stars. This follows Baltimore PD detective Malcolm, who was assigned a new partner, Sunjay. Sunjay is a recent transfer from the behavioral unit of the FBI in California. I'll really only give the plot of the first book because the rest of it will kind of spoil the series. In the first book, Malcolm and Sunjay are investigating a string of like grisly queer murders. Each book isn't focused on like queer murders specifically, they're just kind of murders in general, but these were the murders that kind of made them accept that they were going to be partners and they couldn't run from it. And of course, over each book they get closer and closer until eventually they do get together. But the overall plot of the book, there is someone who is connected to Sanjay, who Sanjay hasn't seen in years, and he's kind of playing a cat and mouse mind game with Sanjay, and Sanjay knows that this person exists, this person is inside Baltimore, he just doesn't know where, who, or what they look like. He's only seen them before in his childhood, and that's kind of the overarching plot of the whole series as a whole. I don't know if each season will hold a different overarching plot or murder mystery, but as for season 1, we are trying to uncover the identity of this mystery person and what exactly he's going to do to Sanjay. That is actually the book that I am going to get to soon because that's the point of the story where the climax is about to happen. My next book in May was a reread that I had already read before, and I kind of read it so that I wouldn't slump out, especially because I was reading such a slow burn long series. It is Watch Me Break You by Avril Ashton. This is an Russian Jamaican mafia romance. I will say, I don't think I've ever read a book that has a Jamaican mafia in it, but the entire series, because this book is part of a series, the entire series does feature characters from the Jamaican mafia's character. That's probably the best way I could describe it, is the Jamaican mafia. This follows Dima. He is our Russian mafia character who just took over the business from his father who recently passed away. Dima's whole thing is he wants somebody who can handle and deserves his whole submission and can take control when he needs it, but also he's kind of like psychotic. Like, the dude is kind of crazy. He's recommended to go to a club by one of his ex-lovers, which is funny. And there he sees our other main character, Xavier, who is inside of a BDSM scene with the woman. And he's like, I want what he's giving her. And I'm not taking no for an answer. And that's kind of it. That's kind of the book. He follows this man and he makes him give him what he wants throughout the entire story. And then they fall in love. However, throughout this whole thing, he doesn't know that Xavier is actually the leader behind the Jamaican mafia called the Root Boys, because Xavier stays behind the scenes while his cousin is the face of the Root Boys. And outside of Xavier's and Dima's relationship, Dima knows that the Root Boys are after his territory and they've been inside of a gang war this whole time. And he doesn't know that Xavier knows all of this. Like I said, this was a reread for me. I have read it before, and this is one of those books that I just go back to simply because I like the relationship between Dima and Xavier so much. And it's one of those books that easily gets me out of a slump and lets me know what I want to read next. It's kind of like one of my resets. I have a couple books that are like that, and this is one of those. And the next books were also a reread. I read volumes 1 through 2 of Wet Sand by Doyak. I am collecting, as y'all can see, the physical copies of Doyak so that I can reread them in the physical form, because I think they made some changes when they officially published them versus when I read them online. So really that's all I'm doing, is rereading them as the physical copies come out. I've talked about this series before as well, but this is basically the world's messiest love triangle, y'all. This is the world's messiest mafia love triangle, and I'm here for it. I love all the volumes so far of Wet Sand, and I'm really just rereading it to determine if the official version has anything different and was this really truly a love triangle from start to finish. That's really why I'm reading it. I really don't know how else to describe it other than this is just a messy love triangle. There is other factors that go into it. Like, Joe is supposed to be this innocent guy who's kind of being corrupted by our main character, Ian. Ian is an ex-mafia member who is kind of still in love with his 22-year fling. Yes, 20 years. 20-year fling, TJ, who is still in the mafia. Ian got out of the mafia and he wants to stay that way, but he kind of wants to take TJ with him. And that's the kind of the complication. And so I will be continuing reading these as these come out. I think I have one more to order that's already out. If not, I'm waiting on volume 4. I have volumes 1 through 3 already. And the last book that I read in the month of May was almost a 5-star for me. It was Razorblade Tears by Cosby. I love this book from start to finish. Not only was it interesting, but it was also very hilarious. And it was also my first full non-romance thriller. They're on a revenge spree to find the killers after both of their sons were murdered. Their sons were actually married to each other, and neither Ike or Buddy Lee ever fully accepted both of their sons when they were actually alive. And so the book is kind of both a journey of them learning all the ways that they could have accepted both of their sons, while also learning how wrong they are about the LGBT community, as well as the racial stereotypes against each other. I really love this book. I'll probably include my review because I feel like I'm more concise in my reviews and I can get all of my thoughts out in written words, but I really love this book. I will most likely read another Cosby book very soon because I've been itching to read one of them, especially since All the Sinners Bleed recently came out this year, I want to say. And Buddy Lee is my favorite character. Buddy Lee was hilarious, okay? He was the exact amount of comedic relief that you needed in this type of book, while also talking about some very serious topics. Like I said, homophobia, racism, while also racism and stereotypes, particularly in the American South. I really love this book and I highly recommend everybody read it, just to have like a good thriller to read. This was my particular brand of violence that I really love. I'm hoping that another one of his books will be like this. Maybe not in the same context, but in terms of the violence, yes. Moving on to June, I read another volume of the Criminal Intentions series by McCade. This one was the 10th book, called A Single Bright Candle's Flame. This was a filler book, I want to say, that encompassed more of Sanjay's story. We get introduced to his sister who escapes away from their parents in California and comes to visit Sanjay because she just misses him so much. And it also helps Sanjay seeing her because he did just go through an incident at the Baltimore PD with one of the cases, and that's kind of affecting him a lot. And so it helped him seeing his sister like alive in the flesh before he sends her back to California to their parents. It was pretty short compared to all the other volumes. I rated it 3 stars because it still was a good book, and it was really just a handoff for the next book, which I'm assuming is going to be the climax of the story. I really need to get back into this series before I forget everything. The next book I read was on my June TBR. It was Want by Gillian Anderson. Gillian Anderson is just a curator for all the letters, but this is essentially a collection of letters submitted anonymously by women supposedly all throughout the world, but based on demographics, most of it was in Europe. There were some letters from women in other parts of the world, but the main demographic, in my opinion, was in Europe and particularly England. Some Scottish, like there was all over, but it was mostly just European women, in my opinion. And it was mainly just a collection of sexual fantasies. Y'all, This tuckered me out. This tuckered me out of all the sex that I needed for the month of June. I cannot believe I sat here and read this entire book of fantasy, y'all. I cannot believe it. Like, this is not a book that I would just pick up and read back to back to back, because it really was just a book about sex. However, I did understand the intention behind it, which is basically saying women want their needs met without the bombastic side eye and dissatisfaction behind it. However, why is there a book 2 coming out? Do we need more? The next book I read was also on my June TBR. This was The Wolf and His King by Longman. This is actually a retelling of a French tale called Bisclavret that was written in the 12th century, which tells the story of a noble knight who undergoes the transformation of a werewolf multiple times a week and he can't get out of it. If you've read the original story, then you may know the sort of plot twist that happens. For anyone who hasn't, I won't spoil it for you because it is essential to Bisclavret and how he transforms back into a human. I also haven't read the original, but I'm assuming The Wolf and His King was pretty accurate in terms of the main plot points of the original story. Aside from this being, of course, a queer retelling where the noble knight gets with his king. I rated this 3.5 stars simply because I felt this book had a lot more potential that wasn't explored. The writing style of Longman was great. I really loved the writing style. I really loved the way that they did things, the way they wrote things, the way they described things. The story lacked so much in terms of plot and characterization that I couldn't rate it any higher. I feel like if we had got more behind the scenes of everyone, including our main character, Bisclavret, the king, and some of the knights that were actually named, then it would have been a better story. But so much happens off screen. I was confused as to why everyone saw Bisclavret as this noble knight, because I didn't get why. Because so much of it happened off screen. Like, yes, I could assume Bisclavret is noble and beautiful and knightly, but why? You know, why am I inferring this? The text itself doesn't give anything for me to infer any of this except for platitudes and words. You get what I'm saying? There was nothing to feed these ideas. And so because of that, I felt like the story could have been better, but I will read more by Longman. This isn't a debut, so I'm wondering if maybe I should read the other series that Longman has. It's called The Butterfly Assassin, and it is supposed to be like a queer YA fantasy thriller type thing. It's described as a crossover between The Hunger Games, Killing Eve, and The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, which is very interesting for me because I've seen 2 of those. I've seen The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo and The Hunger Games, so I am intrigued, but I'm not sure yet. But overall, this book was okay. The next book that I read took me completely off guard, okay? Completely off guard by how much I like this book. It's Pritty with an I by Keith F. Miller. Y'all, I love this book so much. I love these characters so much. I loved it so much. This follows our main character, Jay, who feels he's just kind of unremarkable to everybody except for Leroy. Leroy has a lot going on both at home and in school, and he's really trying to get his life together as a young Black teen, but also he is the brother of the leader of this group called the Black Diamonds. Everyone thinks this is kind of like a gang in the community, but their whole thing is that they are trying to help the businesses and the people inside the community that the government is not helping. However, people start dying and there is a lot going on. There is like an overall mystery that's going on who is controlling who inside the community and the government, while also focusing on these kids just trying to live their life and get together and be in love and find themselves. This just felt like I was watching something that could be happening down the street for me. You know, that's how the writing felt. The writing felt so homey, but that just could be because of where I'm from and like how I've heard people talk. And the story felt not too outlandish. It kind of felt really realistic. And I'm just like, what is happening right now? Why are these kids going through this? Why is my homeboy going through this? Like, me and them are like this now, okay? Me and them are like this. It is such a heartwarming love story as well as a really good mystery while also tying in community and brotherhood. And I just loved it. And I will be reading book 2 very, very soon because I did have to order it. I read the first book through my library, and as soon as I finished it, not even as soon as I finished it, I think before I finished it, I had already ordered both that book and the second in the series because I have to know what happens with my boys. I gotta know what's happening with them. I really love this one. I think y'all should pick it up. I think this is a great YA book, and it doesn't even read juvenile, but the characters are juvenile, and it is set to take that into account. But it's good. It was exactly what I needed. It was very much comfort for me while also still giving me that little bit of mystery that I needed to like keep me hooked and keep me going and like not just be pure romance, which there's nothing wrong with that. But I do love this type of community versus government mystery that we've got going on. And like I said, people was dying. And I was like, whoa, aren't they still in school? What is going on? Why y'all bullying these kids? You too big for that. But I thought this was great. And the last book that I read in the month of June was Revive Me Part 1, The Act by J.L. Seegars. If y'all watch any of my other videos, y'all probably like, girl, you can't shut up. I mean, I can't shut up. It's not often that I get a 5-star. And it's a romance book too. I can't shut up about it because what happened when I read this book, I don't know. The person that read this book is a different me. Okay. And she's waiting to feel like that again. When I read this book and I read Pritty, I was like, dang, where is this person that's reading these books and finding these books at? Because she needs to stay longer. She needs to stay a little while. That's not how it happens to me all the time. I really had a decent reading month in June. I didn't read that many books, but I had a decent reading month. Like nothing was below 3 stars. And that's probably good for me. Like that's kind of great. But to get back to Revive Me, this follows our couple, Chris and Mallory. Again, this is a second chance fake dating romance. So we already knew by the end of book 1 that they was not going to be together. What we want to know is how they get back together, which is what I don't know. I highly recommend that y'all pick this book if y'all are looking for like a nice, good romance. It's not just about sex. I really love this one. This is part of a series. The first book is called Restore Me, which is also good, but I do enjoy Chris and Mallory's story and Revive Me much better. I have part 2, The Affair, on my July TBR right now, and I cannot wait to get to it because I need to know what is going on. Why is this called The Affair? Who gonna do what? And how we gonna fix this? Because I need this to be fixed. I need it to be fixed real bad. I feel like it's not often that I like second chance romances, and so this did take me by kind of a surprise that I did like this one. Honestly, I just read a book that was also second chance romance and I didn't enjoy it as much. So I don't know. We got to figure out what kind of books is working for me and what's not. I need to figure that out so that I can prioritize those books so that I can continue to have a good time, guys. But that concludes our reading wrap up for the months of May and June. Let me know what you guys read in the months of May and June. Did any books take you by surprise? Did you have any 5 stars? How often do y'all have 5 stars? Because I feel like I don't have that many. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time.